What do you hear? This is a topic many people are not aware of, but I put a lot of thoughts into this. It accompanied me for many years, even before my Zen studies, during them, and it even led me to a breakthrough. And finally, it was one of many reasons that made me move to Bulgaria. Monk on the hill here, and if you think it's interesting what you're about to hear, any like, comment or subscribe is much appreciated. Now let's start all the way from the beginning. From the first moment on, when I got my first clock radio back in the 80s, music was an important part of my life. I used it in the morning as an alarm clock and listened to it until I fell asleep at night. As I grew up, I had my Walkman on as soon as I left the house. When I started driving, it was a no-brainer that the music started as soon as I turned the keys. And whenever I had an office job, I had a radio with me, or I tweaked the computer to listen to music from it. Thinking back, I'm not sure if it was to drown out other sounds or simply escaping reality. When I moved in my first own apartment, I only could afford one that was close to a main road, and there it hit me. Every single car that drove by distracted me. I could only sleep with earplugs. Finally, I was so happy when I was able to move further out to the countryside of Switzerland, only to find out that hundreds of border crosses from France used this road in front of that house on a daily basis. In addition, this move brought me closer to an airport, and after a while I realized that there were hardly 5 minutes without an airplane above my head. Prior to that, I started meditating. For that matter, it helped me in one way. In another way, it made it way worse. It helped me by accepting things how they are, but made it worse by being more aware of everything that's going on around me, including traffic noise. I tried to escape it actively. I searched on Google Maps for a place the furthest away from any roads. So I drove there, climbed up a mountain, and when I reached the top, there were planes and helicopters flying over my head. I also went on walks in the forests close to me, and that's when I realized something not so good. I took a friend on one of these walks, and in the middle of the forest I asked him, "What do you hear?" He answered, "Birds, insects, wind in the trees." And I asked back, "What about the airplane above us? And the car in the distance? And the lawnmower from the village close by?" He just shrugged his shoulders and went, "Ah, those." Traffic noise became normal. On behalf of my Zen studies, I was able to turn this problem into my advantage, simply by switching the word what to who. Switching this word makes this part a bit of a side story, but let me explain. I am in the Soto lineage, where you mainly only meditate. There's also the so-called Rinzai Zen, where it's more common to work with your mind and your brain as well. They have the so-called koans. A koan is kind of a riddle given to you by a master that you're supposed to solve. The trick is, often such a koan is kind of a paradox, or definitely not solvable. The more you try to solve it, the more it'll drain your brain. Since I wasn't too fixated on one side, I gave a koan to myself. That koan was, "Who is listening?" And it helped. Months later, thinking about that, I made this deep experience. Or was it wide? Or far? There are no words explaining it. But let me tell you enlightenment isn't a solution. At least not for me. Yes, I was able to answer so many of my questions about life, the universe, and everything, but other questions came up like why and how, and again, who. So I kept on researching in many different directions, and in each one I found another piece of the puzzle. One of those stories I came across was told by the ethnopharmacologist Christian Reg. He told about the tradition of the Shipipo tribe that lives in Peru. There, if someone has, for example, a pain in his arm, he goes to the shaman. The shaman drinks, I think it's ayahuasca, and he looks at the patient, and patterns start to appear on this person. Only on that person's arm, the patterns are not in order. They seem to be messed up somewhere where the pain is. So the shaman starts singing towards his patterns. These patterns react to the sounds, and he keeps on singing until these patterns are back in order and the pain is gone. You might think this is nonsense, but I think they are doing that for centuries. If it would not work, they would have stopped doing that long time ago. Now, this brings up the question, if the melody of a shaman is healing your body, what's the effect of traffic noise to you? To find out, I probably would have to take ayahuasca, but I'm not doing that because all drugs are illegal in Bulgaria, except for rakia. And with that, we are back here in Bulgaria, where I bought an old rural homestead, and the ambient noise became the reason it had to be rural. And I only looked at properties bigger than 1 acre or 5,000 square meters to have some distance to some neighbors that might keep the radio on full volume all day long, or have a chained up dog that keeps on barking non-stop. Well, I had to make some compromises, because what weighed even more than the noise was the view that I wanted. And there, simple physics kicks in. Sound waves travel quite far if they are not blocked by an obstacle. Now, being high up, I can hear everything that's going on in the valley. An approaching car, a dog in the distance, even people talking on the property further down. So it's not perfect. Maybe once a week there are off-road freaks with a car or a bike driving by, but they are gone within some minutes. There are planes flying over me, but only about 10 a day, and not every 5 minutes. I hear chainsaws and trimmers roaring from every neighbor, but I accept them because I know it's necessary, and I'm using these tools as well by myself. There are neighbors' dogs barking a lot, but they're quite far away, and I know them personally, and I know they have a good reason to bark, because there's always something in the forest. Other than that, what I hear now depends strongly on the season. All seasons are accompanied by cow or horse bells, and of course the roosters that I have in my chicken flock. Now in the summer there are a few birds tweeting, frogs quacking in my pond, insects buzzing, cicadas on hot days, and crickets at night. Of course, I hear every breeze of wind blowing through the leaves of the forest. Since the autumns are long and warm in Bulgaria, the ambient sound don't change a lot. But as it gets colder, at night I lay in bed and listen to the crickets that become fewer and fewer until I can identify the last one chirping its last chirp of the year. Then winter comes, and there are these cold, snow-covered days where I finally hear nothing. No one is out. Animals are hiding away. Every sound is swallowed by the snow. Until spring comes back and life awakes with roaring noise. Masses of birds are singing as loud as they can. Even at night, the nightingales are singing. Cuckoos are calling, woodpeckers are hammering, and insects coming back to life. The nearby stream is rushing, filled from the downfalls that are knocking on my roofs. And you know what? Ever since I moved here, I stopped listening to music simply because I enjoy what I'm hearing. And what do you hear